This is a good opportunity while the weather is pleasant and the flowers are still in bloom to take a walk and see the daffodils. They're in full tilt. And I think very soon they're almost peak and they're starting to decline, but while they're still here, I'd like to appreciate them. We come out every day and just soak in the beauty. And these little jonquils, we love to buy these at our local supermarket in full bloom in pots. And then when we come home, we let them go through their paces, but after they finish flowering, we plant them in the ground. And we separate them out and get maybe 3, sometimes even 4 clusters from one pot of flowers. And these are some plum trees that our friend Andrew gave us, and these are native plums, so they're not sweet, but they get a very beautiful white flower in the spring. They're about ready to open. I was worried about them because we had such a bad cold snap, and we lost a lot of things, especially in the greenhouse. All the arugula died. But this looks like it may make it. A little late, actually, but the buds look like they're swelling. And we'll have some nice, beautiful blossoms. And in the summer, we'll have the plums. And sometimes I like to just pickle them like you would an umeboshi plum and use it as a condiment. We'll see what happens. And this is a very unusual quince. We were very fortunate to find this stunning red quince at our local nursery about 10 years ago. It hasn't grown much, and I suspect the problem is at the roots with the moles and voles that we are always struggling with. So it looks very good this year. I've been treating it with a repellent, and it's finally put out new shoots. What a treasure. Mostly you see the salmon color, which is also quite beautiful. But this is unusual, and it's nice to have that treat. So I'm walking along the path, and keep in mind that when we bought this house, this entire front yard was nothing but grass. So all of the plantings that you see were all put in over time. These azaleas were moved out from in front of that space by the garage right there. There were about a dozen of them, like constant tin soldiers, all standing cheek to jowl, crowded in, and I moved them out the first year, and I put them all throughout the front lawn. And they didn't skip a beat. They did quite fine, and now they filled out, and every year they bloom very beautifully. And I made pathways around all of those shrubs. This one was a gift from a friend. That's a spirea, and it was just a small root division when she gave it to me, and now it's spectacular. I'd like to dig some of that up again and move it around. This is how we get things to be lush and jungle-like. We take cuttings and root divisions. Also, I'll back up and just say that this is an amazing pussy willow. This one, it's a little past, so you can't really appreciate the color it had, but it's quite long, the catkin, and it has like a silver pink hue to it. Very beautiful in flower arrangements. And pussy willow, being in the willow family, will root very readily. If you leave it too long in a vase with flowers in an arrangement, you'll notice that it's putting out roots already. So if you have the good fortune to get some, even as a gift, let them root and put them in the ground, but be cautioned. The shrub itself will get massively big. So give it plenty of room to stretch its wings and fill out. Or, like I do, I'm always taking some for flower arrangements, so that keeps it in trim. This was about double the size, and I kept taking cuttings. So I'd like to show you. Here's what I do with the little pots of jonquils. Here it is. It's finished up from the store, and I will get 3 clumps out of this. What I like to do is go through and dig the hole first, have the bone meal ready, have the watering can ready. So I've already dug 3 holes. Then I'll come back and I can separate the bulbs out and put them in, and they'll be so happy. They'll ripen, the leaves will ripen in the ground in their natural rhythm, and then next year they'll flower. And if they don't flower next year, they'll flower the year after. But it's a wonderful way to, enjoy the flowers a little bit before the season while it's still wintry, but get them in the ground as soon as the ground is not frozen, and they'll be fine. Put some bone meal in there, a little bit, handful of bone meal in the hole, and they'll be fine. They're just wonderful. So I'm set up, ready to go. Let's take a little walk around and just appreciate. Now the same goes for all these yellow daffodils. About 3 years ago, there was a nice thick clump, and I wanted some yellow in here, so I divided them up right after they flowered and put them in, and now they're doing really well. This one on the left, I might even be able to divide it this year and get another planting somewhere. All of the forsythia was taken from cuttings from the last house that we lived in on the farm. And a note about forsythia: if you don't trim it and you let it ramble and get the big long arches, sometimes they'll get so long that they'll lay on the ground and they will root. So I was able to give away 5 plants this spring to people who wanted them for their yards, and I don't want them to get too thick. So I keep them very much under control, and anything that's laying on the ground, I'll check to see if there's a root on it. If there is, I'll take the spade, the shovel, and cut it, just cut it right through with the shovel, and then dig that new little plant out. And if I'm giving it to a friend, I don't even have to put it in a pot. I can just put it in a plastic bag. Keep it well hydrated, and as long as they get it into the ground soon enough, they'll do just fine. So you can easily propagate them that way. Now here's another little gift. This is a little sapling I noticed last year, and I thought, oh, what the heck is that? And then when I realized, I looked at the leaf, I said, oh, it's a peach. So we have 2 peach trees in this yard in the front. There's a really nice one behind me. I'll show you in a bit. I think the squirrels took the nuts or the seeds and dug them into the ground here. And I think I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to dig it up and give it away, because what I can do is train it to arch over this pathway, and it'll be a lovely little like a tunnel. I like the tunnel effect, where you have something arching over you to protect you when you walk through. It's like going from one room to another. So we'll keep an eye on that as it grows, but that's only like, I don't know, maybe 2 years old. I only noticed it last year, so we'll play with it. We'll see what happens. Nature is very generous and loves to give and give very freely. This is a hellebore. Some call it a Christmas rose, some call it a Lenten rose, like Easter time. But they come out white, and then they turn this divine, soft, yellowish green. and they're very hardy. This went through 5 degrees of brutal wind and cold, and they're still amazing, and they make good cut flowers. You can, when they get about this size, if you want to, divide them. I have divided some up, and it does take them several years to recoup. They go into shock, but they will divide if you're careful. And oftentimes, if they're happy where they are, they will put out seeds. You can see the little seed capsules forming right in the center. Let's see. Right in the very center, there will be seed capsules. It's not the yellow, it's green. It's a little green capsule that forms. So if you're lucky and they're happy, they'll spread for you. Let's see now. These are certainly at a stage where they can be dug up and divided. Just know that 12 years ago, when we bought the house, there was nothing in the front yard except the big, beautiful maple trees and the pine trees on the edge, but that was it. And there was just one area by the driveway that had these white daffodils, which I think could possibly be the variety called Mount Hood. Not 100% sure, but it definitely looks like that to me. And over the years, I just dug them up, divided them, put them everywhere. And I'm still not satisfied. I want them even more places. And now I have my eye on underneath these pine trees. So last year I started to move some wood hyacinths under there. And this year I will divide some of these white daffodils. I want them everywhere. And they're free. You don't have to pay a lot of money for beauty. Something else I'd like to bring up, a curiosity for some. Some people may know about this already. This wire is hanging in the tree. Notice it's copper. It is placed on the south side of the tree, and it's used for something called electroculture. And the copper in that circle that's left open, it's not connected, will pull in electric current or ions from the atmosphere and fill this area so that the soil organisms are enlivened. And it will tremendously help the growth and productivity of whatever you put these on or around. You can also place them at the base of the tree. Now on some of them, you can actually lay them on the ground. But it must, when it's on the ground, face north. Due north exactly. So most people have a compass on their iPhone, or you could buy a sweet little compass. And make sure that the opening is facing due north if you put it around the trunk on the ground. But when you hang it in the tree, you want it to be on the south side of the tree. Notice it's on the other side of the trunk here. Now we just put these on about 2 weeks ago, and we'll see. We have some trees and plants that are really struggling, so we're anxious to see how this will help. And because we have such problems with moles and voles, we're just buying wire, the copper wire. We even found that an old extension cord was filled with copper wire, so we're using that now too. And hopefully, I don't think it will deter the moles and voles per se. What I'm hoping for is that at least it may make the tree healthy and vigorous enough that it can withstand the onslaught and then be in balance with nature. So we'll see what happens there. We've had a lot of problems with the moles and voles, and I have a suspicion that all of the electronics and frequencies that are being pushed into the atmosphere are agitating them. I just have a feeling that there's been an uptick in mole and vole damage because of all the frequencies. 5G, 4G. So Who knows? Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. But you can't go wrong if you encourage the health of the plant. I like putting different garden pieces together to make something different and new. So this was a plant saucer and a little bird that a friend gave me, a little clay bird, and a pot. And put the three together and I've got something. These are all in different places and now they're together and it looks like a nice presentation. Nice reflecting pool for the birds when they need a drink. So look around, see what you have that could be repurposed. Last one on the tour is going to be the peach tree. This is doing spectacularly well. And I've made some really beautiful Japanese ikebana arrangements with them. They need to be pruned once a year so that they're not too thick. You can see how the branches are crossing and a little bit thick in the middle, so I will pick a day that's beneficial for working with fruit trees, and I will clear out some of those shoots that are coming up and crossing one another so that the open part of the tree is facilitating more light coming in, and then you get more fruit production. So I hope some of these ideas were helpful to you. They're easily implemented. Look around, see what you have that you can use on your own. Take some old clumps of daffodils, dig them up, but dig the holes first. Get all of your bone meal ready. Have your watering can there. Go dig a bunch of holes and then go and dig up your daffodils, separate them and put them in the new location. I wish you good luck and I hope you tell me if it worked for you. Thanks.